Meeting my ex-girlfriend Kaylee's family during the holidays turned out to be the most dreadful weekend of my life. They resided in Vermont, a different state from us on Long Island, New York. Despite our relatively new relationship, Kaylee insisted it was serious enough for her parents to invite us for Christmas. As we pulled up to their beautiful house on a well-kept property in Vermont, my first impressions were mixed. Her parents seemed friendly, but in an oddly unexplainable way. Her father, though not smiling, greeted me warmly, while her mother, with a wide smile that felt somewhat exaggerated, showed more emotion. The house, both inside and out, exuded a charming wooden lodge atmosphere. Dinner with Kaylee's small family had its awkward moments, but overall, it seemed relatively normal. Afterward, we watched a Christmas movie in the living room. Despite my attempts to avoid eye contact, Kaylee's socially awkward brother Paul kept staring at me for extended periods. His judgmental gaze made me increasingly uncomfortable. Later in the evening, as Kaylee and I settled into the guest room, her phone received a text from her mom. Curiosity got the best of me, and I peeked at the message. To my surprise, it read, "Do you think he suspects anything yet?" Before quickly switching to a new message. Feeling uneasy, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Unable to sleep, I heard Kaylee get out of bed quietly around 2 in the morning. She seemed to be acting suspiciously, and my unease grew. Pretending to be asleep, I listened as she left the room and walked downstairs. Something was happening. Curiosity and concern drove me to eavesdrop on the conversation downstairs. The talking in hushed tones seemed like they were planning something. Kaylee mentioned something about standing by the door, and her brother responded. The pieces of a mysterious puzzle were falling into place. Deciding it was time to leave, I gathered my belongings and headed for the door. However, in the dimly lit room, I discovered Kaylee's dad sitting in a chair staring at me with a blank expression. Shocked, I screamed and fled to my car, speeding out of their driveway without looking back. At a gas stop, I received a text from Kaylee asking what happened. I didn't respond until later that night, stating I didn't know what her sick family was planning, demanding no further contact, and assuring her I wouldn't report the bizarre incident. She never replied. It was the night of Christmas Eve, around 1 in the morning. I found myself in our den engrossed in TV, a tradition I maintained to relish the festive and snug atmosphere of Christmas Eve. The snowstorm outside prompted me to leave the window open, allowing the backyard light to illuminate the snow-covered scenery. While focused on the TV, something caught my attention in the backyard through my peripheral vision. Turning to the window, all I saw was falling snow, yet a lingering suspicion prompted me to check again. Reassured, I returned to the couch, but a lingering unease led me to keep glancing at the window. After about 10 minutes, I managed to calm down and refocus on the movie. Suddenly, a loud and distinct noise echoed through the den, the backyard gate slamming shut. Instinctively, I sensed someone was out there. Quickly slipping on my shoes and jacket, I ventured into the backyard. There, I discovered footprints in the snow, leading from one gate to the other. Though intrigued, fear overcame my curiosity, and I retreated indoors. As I removed my boots and jacket, I noticed a trail of wet, muddy snow on the den carpet, extending from the office to the hallway, which led to the living room and my parents' room. Determined to unravel the mystery, I followed the boot marks to the office without turning on any lights, hoping to remain unnoticed. My initial expectation of a broken window was shattered when I found everything intact. It dawned on me that the boot marks didn't originate in the office. They ended there. Raising my gaze, I noticed the garage door in the corner was open. Underneath, someone in a winter coat, jeans, and boots was crouched, as if attempting to hide, their head turning to meet my gaze. Horrified, I stood frozen for a few seconds before sprinting to my parents' room, screaming all the way. I urgently got my dad to join me, and as we approached the garage together, we heard the actual garage door opening. By the time we reached the scene, the intruder had vanished. While we could have followed the boot marks, the uncertainty of how far he had gone dissuaded us, Subsequently, we learned that the intruder had entered through an unlocked living room window. This incident reinforced the importance of securing doors and windows, as determined individuals will find a way to break in, underscoring the need for constant vigilance. I'm the eldest of 4 siblings, and during the events of this story I was 16. My younger sister was 11, and my 2 brothers were 8 and 7. Our parents were part of an exclusive club, mainly for wealthy individuals. This club hosted an annual Christmas party at a grand firehouse, complete with a Santa Claus to distribute presents to the younger kids. This particular year, my dad's best friend, Michael, was playing Santa. As we sat at the table, I saw Michael leave to change into the Santa suit. About 20 young kids were present, eagerly awaiting Santa's arrival. When the door opened, bells jingled, and the kids excitedly yelled, "Santa!" However, Michael entered wearing a surprisingly lackluster Santa costume, far less impressive than the ones the club usually provided. While the hat and beard were passable, the costume seemed cheap, like something from a party supply store. Despite the questionable outfit, Michael chuckled and did his best Santa impression, altering his voice convincingly. I noticed some of my parents' friends exchanging whispers. Michael grabbed the gift bag, promising to return with presents, and walked out. Shortly after, my dad and a few others chased after him, shouting. Confused, I went outside, only to find my dad and others bewildered in the parking lot. It turned out that the person dressed as Santa wasn't Michael. The real concern arose when we discovered Michael's car was missing. As we tried to contact Michael, we realized his phone was off, and even his house phone went to voicemail. With growing worry, we initiated a search party but found no trace of him. Eventually, my dad and I returned to the firehouse, where most people had already left. Waiting outside, I heard a distant scream for help from the woods. Rushing towards the sound, I screamed back Michael's name. He responded, yelling for help. Excited, I didn't wait for my dad and entered the woods, following Michael's cries. There, I found him tied to a tree, a bloody mess with injuries suggesting a severe beating. I used my key to cut the ropes, and he struggled to his feet. I guided him back to the parking lot, where he discovered his car was gone. Michael shared that, as he left the building to change into the Santa costume, 3 masked assailants attacked him. One of them repeatedly struck him in the forehead with a metal object, rendering him unconscious. He woke up tied to a tree in the woods. It was disturbing to think that someone would plan such harm just to steal gifts from children, some of which were quite valuable. To add insult to injury, they also took Michael's expensive car. I empathized with him, and still do. It's not a story he can casually bring up, as it remains a painful memory for both of us.